3, 2, 1. Okay, perfect. We are recording. So officially, thank you for joining our webinar today called From Data to Decisions, Exploring AcreValue's Newest Features. I'm your host, Jeff Nazuka, Lead Account Executive here at AcreValue. And today we'll be introducing AcreValue's newest features and talking about how those features are going to benefit our users. More specifically, we'll be talking about empowering energy development and investment through the addition of new regional energy and utility data, as well as maps of protected lands and easements. We'll also be talking about user experience upgrades in the form of a new energy data control menu and the ability to export landowner contact search results into CSV spreadsheets. And then finally, we'll cover how the new vegetation maps and market explorer tools help folks make data-driven decisions when it comes to their land. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, we also do have a Q&A at the end too. So let's get started by introducing the newest data sets and maps that are added to AcreValue. The newest data added here are the energy development areas and the protected lands maps. Now, these maps are overlaid onto AcreValue's parcel map, so you can immediately see if a property falls within an energy community or has an easement, for example. We're pretty confident that these additions are going to help increase search efficiency and reduce the time in finding a property that fits your needs. These new data sets have been particularly requested by some of our energy developer users who, have mentioned that finding a viable development property requires analyzing all of these property details, right? You've got your different easements, you have wetlands and other protected territories, energy communities, and the impacts that those can have on the bottom line of a project. There's a lot of information to go through, and these new additions help you quickly identify the appropriate sites that check all of the right boxes for the regulations that energy developers would need to follow. That ultimately helps you be the first to submit a proposal to a landowner and give yourself the best chance of success for developing that project. Now, let's talk about how to view and control the display of the new energy areas and protected lands. So the new control panel menu is what you will use to turn your desired energy areas and protected lands on or off, right? So those are map layers that are going to be layered on top of the map. You can now customize your map to see exactly the data that drives your decisions on a property. And if you don't need to see certain maps or areas, that's totally fine. You can simply turn them off to simplify your map view. Now, to open the control panel on the AcreValue map, we're going to want to select the toggle data button at the top left corner of the map here. So let's see that in action on AcreValue. So let's flip over to the AcreValue system here. And now you should be seeing a map of some farmland territories. I can see that I have some icons overlaid on top of the map, including things like wind turbines, transmission lines, protected land areas. Now we're going to look for the toggle data button, which is at the top left corner of our map area. So it's right here. Once I select that toggle data button at the top left, we'll be able to see all of our different local and regional data sets that have been added into the AcreValue system. This is where you'll be controlling which data you want to see or hide. If you click the checkbox, you'll be able to turn that data set off. And just clicked on transmission lines, it went away on the map. Likewise, if you wanted to add certain other data sets as well, for example, energy communities is not something that's visible on my map right now, but I can click on the checkbox right next to it to add one type of energy community, and it looks like this particular area does, in fact, fall within an energy community. Specifically, it is the Danville Metropolitan Statistical Area. So in order to go and see that, you'll want to visit the acrevalue.com map and again find the toggle data button at the top left of the map. Now let's flip back over to our slide deck here. And so we're going to transition to our next topic, which is, let's go here. Perfect. Our next topic is another user experience upgrade that has been long requested. It is the ability to export contact information to a spreadsheet. So professionals from a lot of industries, real estate, energy, finance, and more, frequently use AcreValue to find contact information for the owner of a property, especially since a lot of the business revolves around contacting landowners and being able to either provide services or potentially have a discussion about buying or selling the asset. Now, part of scaling a business obviously means being able to reach more potential customers or potential clients faster. And using this new feature, you can export landowner names, phone numbers, mailing addresses, and emails to a spreadsheet. We're confident that this is going to simplify the process of, for example, sending direct mail or calling potential customers during, your general business workflows, because all of the contact information is available in a spreadsheet format that's more optimized for things like sending mailers out and doing focused calling, line by line. So how do we do that? How do we export landowner contact information? So to get started with finding and exporting that info, we'll start by selecting a parcel on the AcreValue map. To search for the contact information, you're going to want to select the blue magnifying glass icon next to the landowner's name. So in this example, you can see here, I've got a landowner here, and you're going to look for the blue magnifying glass icon just to the right of that landowner's name. And once you select the blue magnifying glass icon, that's going to prompt the system to return phone and emails for what's in the database. Once the landowner's contact information appears, you can view the click to view previous results button, which is just above the landowner's contact info. And that'll allow you to see a list of your previous contact search results. Now, on the page that displays all of your results, you'll be able to select the Download CSV button to export those results to a spreadsheet. So let's put this process into practice. Let's quickly go through this on the AcreValue website. So I'm going to flip back over. And let's say this is a property that I'm curious about. It is just over 40 acres. It is in Champaign County, Illinois. And I can see that I have an owner here, and I want to try and get in touch with them. So as per the instructions, step one is to select my property and then use the blue magnifying glass icon to the right, where I can search a national database for the owner's phone and email. So let's do that. I'm going to select it, and you can see that there is a hit for this particular landowner. I can see some potential phone numbers, I can see some possible email addresses, and I can see a handful of alternate addresses as well that might be worth mailing to. On this page, I can also see that there is a click to view previous search results button at the top. If I click that, I'll be able to jump right into all of the results that I have run for my searches. And on my account personally, you can see that I've done this quite a bit. Once here, you'll be able to use the Download CSV button. And once you select it, you'll be able to generate a spreadsheet that has all of your personal results on here for the search contact info. So let's download that CSV. And this is going to open up our CSV. Yes. So now we can see that all of the contact information, so that's our names, phone numbers, emails, addresses, and then a little bit more info about the parcel that we started the search for. All of that is coming into our local systems via the CSV export. Use this, as a power user, I would recommend using this to import into like a mailing system, for example. If you wanted to send postcards to these addresses, that works great. And then if your job is a little bit more phone based, having all of the phone numbers and names right next to each other, kind of on a line by line type of process, is going to make it really easy to stay focused and keep track of who you're calling. So let's flip back over here. And the next feature that we want to talk about after the landowner contact information is regarding some of the newest data that's here that'll help drive decisions when it comes to either buying, selling, potentially, or helping a client buy or sell land. So let's talk about checking that property information. We're going to start with the vegetation maps on AcreValue, and those are using satellite imagery to view different information about a property. So for example, you'll be able to see a satellite image of a property from recently, or a really common example is from the last growing season. You'll want to be able to see vegetation statistics and that sort of thing. You can also see those particular vegetation cover maps. So this example that I have here is our normalized differential vegetation index, or NDVI. So this is a measure of crop vegetation health during the growing season. And in particular, NDVI is super helpful for farmers and landowners to track field conditions during the season and make any necessary adjustments to their operations as well. Developers also rely on certain indices like the calculated urban index to identify built-up areas and parts of the property that you've selected that might have buildings or other developed structures on them. And this is also helpful for realtors and other investors who need to know whether a property has buildings or structures, and at what point in the past may it have had those structures. So let's see how to find these maps on the AcreValue website. So we're going to flip back over towards the AcreValue website here. And let's take this same example of a parcel here. What we're going to do to find the vegetation maps, let's generate a full report. So I'm going to start by selecting my property. So now I've clicked on it. I can see that the property outline is colored in. And on this pop-up tab here with all of this fantastic information on it, I'm going to get a full report, which is the first blue button. Once I generate that full report, that report is going to pull back everything that AcreValue has on this property, starting with some summary information about how many acres is it, what's the average PI for the area, for example. On the left-hand side, we'll want to select the vegetation option. So that's 4 down on the menu right here. And this will allow you to see different maps and other indexes for the particular property that you selected. So in my case, if we wanted to do NDVI from the last growing season, we'd be able to change up our date range here to be able to say, find me an NDVI image for the vegetation index that was from mid-growing season. So this would be in Illinois, July, August, for example. If we run the search, we'll get our new imagery, and that'll be shown on the map here. And note that the indices that are displayable are not just limited to, again, the 3 that we talked about. So your, vegetation index, the urban index, and then a true color image. There's quite a bit that you can select through here that have been calculated using the satellite imagery. So for your use cases, what's relevant, I would recommend taking a look at some of the drop downs that are in here, and being able to see if any of these would be helpful for you as well. I know that there's more than one, there's definitely quite a few that are helpful for our farmers and other landowner folks out there as well. Perfect. Now let's jump into the final feature that we'll cover today, which is the Market Explorer, a custom land value tracking tool that uses sale records on AcreValue to calculate land values for your property that you're curious about. Because the tool uses past sale records to assess the land value, you can calculate land values for today, or even in the past. And therefore, you can see changes in land values over time if that's something that you're curious about. Of course, these estimates are going to be the most accurate when the estimates reflect the property that you're interested in researching. So in order to start using the Market Explorer, step 1 is describing your property with details like acreage, crop history, soil productivity, and more. Once you describe your property and run the search, the system will give you a recent estimate for sales price, as well as trends over time for the acreage and total dollar amount of land sold as well. And finally, once you get your summary results, you'll also be able to see the individual sale records that were used in generating that average land value. This was mentioned by realtors, land brokers, and investors as being pretty critical in creating what is known in the industry as a market analysis report. And so this is a report that's put together for your client as a realtor or investor. And this report, the best ones contain not only what the land value is, what it's been determined to be, but also contains data points on how that value is generated, right? It allows you to have specific data points that, will check your work for sake of that term. You can now do this using the Market Explorer, right? You can take the generated value of the land itself and then be able to see what specific data points have gone into generating that value. So let's take a look at how this is done in the AcreValue system. So I'm going to flip back over to Market Explorer. Perfect. So here we've got our Market Explorer. I've got it trained on Illinois right now. And so on the left-hand side, we see that there are quite a few filters that we can choose to use to try and find average sale price for a particular type of property. So let's describe a property that we are curious in. I'm just going to use some baseline. So, for example, let's say we wanted to target row crop tillable properties in Illinois. We can use our land use category as row crop. If we wanted to ensure that most, if not all of the property was, dedicated for corn, beans, and row cropping, we can bump up this land use criteria up to 75%, and maybe we want to change our PI to be the most high quality productive farmland. So we can jump that up as well. And once we're ready with our search parameters, let's refresh our results, run the search, and we'll see that the system updates. And we can see that the average sale price is, noticeably higher for higher productivity soil properties. That's no surprise. So once you generate this summary based on the properties that you were curious about, you'll get the summary statistics, you'll get information about sale price per acre, trends, changes, how did people buy? Was it cash or was it mortgage? Critically, if you need to see or want to see the sales that made up this 13,000 an acre value, you can do that. So that button to do so is view underlying data right here. This is going to allow us to see all of the sale records that went into creating that 13,000 per acre value. What we're going to be able to see here in a moment is that these sales, about 2,500 of them in total across Illinois, this is the data points that determined that 13,000 an acre value. And so there's a couple of different ways to kind of see these data as it comes up. You can obviously sort by county to county to see if there are any specific trends, county to county that you would be curious about. One good way to jump right into the data and see, what are some of the data points that I'm looking at, that would be, for example, pulling open your list view, which is on the left-hand side here. The list view will allow you to see all of the different results that are populated on our map. And so we have quite a few results on our map right now. What we'll be able to see in the list view is all of those sales records themselves, for example, and we can sort by sale date to see the most recent ones. In terms of being able to do an analysis on specific data points that generate a land value estimate, this should be pretty impactful for folks. If you want a quick, easy number that you can use, the Market Explorer will give you that basically within seconds. And if you're the kind of person who wants to get a little bit more custom or who wants to dig into the results a little bit more for that peace of mind, to check the work and make sure that everything looks good, feel free to jump into the data underneath it. You'll be able to see exactly what sold, who are the buyers, who are the sellers, when did it sell, all of the kind of primary information you'd want to see here. Now we've got about 10 minutes left in our presentation here, so I want to save some time for Q&A. Let's go back to our slide deck and let's talk a little bit about how to get started. So if you're looking for basic property information like the vegetation maps, landowner contact information, you can compare a few plans on our pricing page, and you can get to that pricing page at acrevalue.com. There's an option for pricing right at the top navigation bar where you'll be able to see different plans that might work for you. If you are a power user or a commercial or enterprise user who may be looking for example, energy areas or land values, reach out to me for a demo and a custom quote. We'll get you set up with an enterprise subscription and make sure that it's right-sized for your needs. I will put my contact info up here very briefly. I'll also keep it on the screen at the end of the webinar as well, but just so folks have the opportunity to write down my contact info if you're curious, I'll leave this up here for a few seconds. Now let's move into our Q&A session. Please send any questions you have via the chat. I am happy to answer them. Let's go ahead and open it up to the audience here. Okay, I did get a direct question just now. So there is a question about whether this webinar is being recorded and whether that recording will be dispersed. The answer is yes, this is being recorded. We will send out the webinar recording once it's ready to go. That's a really good question as well. Let's do that one. So the question was, if I wanted to take some of the results that I have found in AcreValue, whether that be our vegetation maps or whether that be our market land value estimate and some of these different sales records, how do I save a copy of that research that I've done? How do I save that, and I assume the context was uh, saving it to a local computer or printing it out. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. Okay, perfect. So for that, what we'll want to do is for any report that we've generated that has our maps as well as information about the comparables that we can select, we can print and download those maps. And so I'll do a couple of examples here. The first one is for our vegetation maps and just generally printing out a map for the different properties that we're curious about analyzing. You're able to download these reports essentially with just a few clicks, right? And so the system will automatically generate a PDF for you. And after that, it's just about downloading it. And then if you wanted to rearrange it at all or something like that, you certainly could. So let's take a look at what this report looks like. Yep, so it's got all of the same information that we saw earlier. It's also, I dare say it's laid out quite nicely, so very easy to read. Highly recommend giving this a shot. A lot of info and transactions in farmland are still done fairly paper to paper. And so to the extent that you can present something like this to a landowner when starting up a conversation, I've definitely heard that makes a difference. Same goes for the Market Explorer as well. If you're curious about printing out some of these information, so your land values, some of the sales records that were underneath it, you're able to generate a PDF report of this page, and that will allow you to, again, save these charts and the land values to your system, so that you can reference all of this data later on in the future as well. Perfect. Any more questions from the group here? Oh, perfect. Thank you for the question. So thank you for the question, Paul. Using your AcreValue data, is there a way to assess the impact on land values looking at pre and post wind farm development? Sure, that's a great question. I think we just about have enough time to cover that. So let's flip back over to the Market Explorer. What I would say is, critical information that we're going to need for that case is number one, when was the wind farm developed? And then, what types of properties are we going to be assessing nearby? So let's see if we can't find an exact example of that. Let's go. Do I have an open tab somewhere? Yeah, okay. So here's a semi-open tab. So these wind turbines, it looks like they were started a while ago. So let's just say for sake of example, if this wind turbine and this wind farm was installed couple years ago, something like that. What I would do in this case is I would look for sales records in this area that, had spanned the many years before the wind farm was set up, and then, the handful of years after the wind farm was set up. Using those sales records and kind of demarcating it with those dates, you'll be able to see how much of the property was actually like or what were land values before the actual establishment of that wind farm and what were land values afterwards. So specifically, I would probably use the Market Explorer to do this. What we can do is to say, if our wind farm was set up 2022, something like that, I would set my time frame, let's say 2 years before, 2 years after. And if I'm looking at specific types of properties, I would probably drop in the criteria of the properties that I wanted to search. And then from there, once you refresh your results, you can take a look at this chart to be able to say, okay, well, I know that there was a wind farm in this area that was set up in quarter four 2022. What have land values done since then? And the next quarter, it looks like they jumped up to 16,000. And there were a couple of changes in 2023, but otherwise, Q4 2023, back in the winter when a lot of land changes hands, it looks like the price jumped all the way back up to 16.5, right? So using you just have to take into account when the wind farm had actually developed, but as long as you know that information, and that's something you can get on AcreValue, as long as you can know that, then you're able to see like, okay, what is the land value trend before, so pre and then post development. Hope that answers your question, Paul. Looks like we're all set. Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of our webinar. I will stay on here for another 4 minutes or so just to make sure if anyone's got any final questions, we can take care of them. But for the folks who don't have any other questions, thank you again for joining us. We hope to see you on AcreValue soon. And of course, for folks who would like to talk about commercial subscriptions, I'll leave my contact info on screen here. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Again, thank you for joining us.